Hi, I'm Della Torre. I'm on the developer marketing team on the Google Play side of things. Today, we've got a special treat for you. We know that we get a lot of questions, requests, and wish list items for how we can help you grow your business on Google Play. I have a special treat. We have some product managers. We have our business development folks. And I'm going to have them give a quick, short intro. But then what we want to do is we actually want to throw the questions out at you. Here are the product managers. This is a great opportunity for you to get in what you need. I get a lot of questions. Do you have X? Do you have Y? If you want your voices heard, this is the place to be. So with that, I am going to go ahead and hand the mic on over to Greg, and he'll introduce himself.
I am Greg Hartrell. I'm the lead product manager for Google Play Games.
Hi, I'm Ellie Powers. I'm the lead product manager for apps on Google Play.
Hi, I'm Dan Lavelle in developer operations, and I work with the folks that support you day to day.
I'm Serge Kassardjian. I lead up business development for East Coast apps and games partners.
Hi, and I'm Brahim. I work on payment, search, and discovery for Google Play.
Great. So first thing we want to do is throw out some easy questions for you. How many people, show of hands, how many people are making games? Okay, the rest are apps? Apps? Okay, wow. Okay, we got a good apps folks here. Let's start off with, Greg, what do you think? Well, let's get the games guys talking for a bit. Let's ask them some questions. What do you want? What kinds of things are you looking at building that you want their input on?
Yeah, to kind of open up the floor, looking for questions around. We build this game network that we call Google Play Games, which helps enhance gameplay and get your game discovered. I think it would be fascinating to hear any questions that you have around any challenges integrating those types of services or getting your game discovered. Would love to hear any type of feedback that you have in that area. Maybe Ellie or Brahim, you want to add some texture to that.
Wait,
you want to answer the question? Is that? Yeah.
What do you want to know?
Oh, yeah, a lot. One is just a basic, like, what are a few things we could do to, like, change your businesses and make them and help them grow and make your lives easier on the areas that I work on, which are, like, commerce and payments, search and discovery. So, how do you acquire users? How can we help you acquire them better? What do you think of the organic acquisition on the Play Store? What do you think of monetization? How are the trends looking? So anything around that would be awesome.
Here, I'm going to go ahead and There you go.
Well, I can address the monetization question. So one of the challenges of being in the kids' educational app category is the monetization. We're sitting on a lot of users. We have over 30 million users, but because only 2% of them converts to paid, that that greatly limits that limits the money. That's what the monetization is limited. Essentially 2%, right? So if we are selling games that teach kids how to learn their letters and letters A through H available in the free version, and the rest is paid. Well, only 2% convert, and that's actually considered pretty good for compared to even some of our competitors. So maybe we can get that rate up, if we optimize things to 3%. But it's still a sad thing that that we should be sitting on so many users, and and have that kind of monetization. Another interesting phenomenon that I'm noticing is that it's almost like so that's as far as the upsell, and as far as the cross sell, also 70% of our users download one app from us. Now this is within paid. So in terms of cross sell from one paid app to another, what we are seeing it's about 70% have just one app. And that's despite our apps like literally stacked at the top of the educational category. Number 1, number 2, number 3, and so on. So it's almost, to us, it almost seems as if the user has X amount of money to spend. It's like let's say they have $10 a month that they're going to spend, and no matter how many apps you are offering, right, that's just, you can be making more apps, but they still have the same amount of money to spend, and they have to spend it on you and on your competitors. So that's been a real problem.
Is your app a paid app, or is it free with the in-app purchases?
So we have 15 apps, and each one there's a free app, and then there's a paid app that's that has more letters or more numbers or or more activities. That's the model right now.
Okay, so I think the freemium model definitely tends to have these like far fewer convert to buyers than your actual users, and the hope is that your marginal cost, or your like incremental cost of running the thing, is actually supported by such a small number of buyers. You might definitely optimize, and Ellie might jump on this one too, by having like the same app actually have in-app purchases in it, so somebody can enhance their experience with it. I know like a lot of schools don't like that because they want to have like, I want to get the whole app at once.
See, the schools thing is a separate conversation, because the Google Play for Education right now, I mean, we've, like I said, like we're at the top of the educational category, and we've made like so far like exactly $1,000 in the Google Play for Education. So that, again, not talking about main Google Play, just the Google Play for Education. So that's still, ramping up. So I'm not even I'm being patient. Obviously, it's going to take time. This is a big endeavor that Google is undertaking with that. So I'm going to wait for that to take off. But in the Google Play for just the regular Google Play. We tried simply switching the model to in-app purchases. So simply having the same content available as in-app purchase doesn't do anything. In-app purchases seem to work when you're playing an arcade-type games and you're buying more lives and you're buying more powers. So that works. But if you just take so essentially when your customers are kids and the buyers are parents, so you can't serve ads. The conventional in-app purchases don't do anything, and it's a there's really the only model right now, viable model, is the one we are using right now, which is limited. Now, subscription would work if we could have new content that was being constantly released, but that's not applicable. So in the end, it's just a.
I want to talk to you offline, because I think it feels like there's a way for you to use in-app for that for your app as well. Maybe we'll catch up offline.
Great. Got a question?
Hi, my question is about the organic discovery of apps and all, and how does the installation and uninstallation impacts that? So what do you count as install? Is it the download started or the download CRC done and finish? What does count as an install in play? Because we've seen some discrepancies when we kind of look at our own database, because we have a registration. So when we see the registration and when we look at the Play Store count, there's some discrepancy. And when we see, because our app syncs also, we see the number of unique syncs versus uninstall. So how does that get, how do you measure the uninstall? And how does the uninstall impacts the discoverability?
I can take down. So I can't really disclose the details of how we're using all these signals. All I can tell you is that they all contribute to how the organic discovery of your app works. Uninstalls, installs, how much of how long is the install duration for. So there's a number of things. We've posted a video actually, one of the dev bites about search and discovery on Google Play, so you can watch that. But the second part of your question was around uninstalls, right? So uninstalls definitely matter, right? Because it's a signal about whether is a user still engaged with the application or not. Have they ratings also matter quite a bit, right? So all of these things are signals that go into the overall model.
Okay, so what do you consider as uninstall? Specific intent to uninstall, or somebody hasn't connected to internet for like a fortnight and you count that app as an uninstall? Because what's happening, let me tell you where the question
No, it has to be a literal uninstall, so.
Okay. Because
right.
the way it is happening for me is that my APKs, for some strange reason, end up on some third-party websites. Okay, and now these guys, I have no way for them to like upgrade to the latest version, and now these guys are uninstalling. Okay.
But if it wasn't distributed through Play, it doesn't matter, right?
No, but because it has the same signature. Okay, so when it uninstall. No. Will it impact my discoverability?
It's uninstalled only on the system, only on the device. If it's distributed through a third-party website or somewhere,
No. So they get the same APK from Play Store. They can download, and then they basically provide it for a on.
Let's take it offline because I think it's specific to what you're talking about. Sure. But I don't think that's the case.
Yeah. So for example, if I'm advertising an app in Asia, because for me it's cheaper, 20 cents per download or around that. And how does the search rankings and the organic rankings will be mattering in the US? Will that affect, or all the continents or countries are independent in the rankings sections? Because, yeah.
So our hope is to basically have a store per user. So each user has a unique store that is personalized and tailored to them. And so that will contribute. So if your installs are coming from Asia, then we're going to understand that this is a popular app in Asia. And that will influence what your growth is like in Asia. It will also be a signal in the US, but this is all kind of weighted in different ways. But there is this signal of like, you are a popular app in Asia because most of your installs are in Asia.
I know that a lot of people want to ask a bunch of questions, but this is a great opportunity to get in your wish list. What I would love to do is let's have one of you guys ask a question of the audience, and let's get their input.
So one of the big things for us, we see a lot of people invest a lot of time, resources, people, money into building apps. And we always struggle trying to understand what your success metrics are. So after the launch, after something goes to market, how do you define success, and how do you see success or failure?
Yeah, we do invest a lot into building apps. I'm Raphael from BuildGuard, and we recently launched on the Android Play Store. And it was a great experience because at first we had some level of transparency that we didn't have before. But to us, besides the usual conversion, engagement, and retention metrics that are kind of platform independent, I think the organic metric, organic download is actually the most important, organic users, really. I think there's something very powerful potential in the store, which is the +1 recommendation, which is basically the only app store that provides this kind of layer. Unfortunately, I think we're really missing the tools to harness that. So we were able to get a lot of +1s from a lot of people, but we have no ability to see how does it impact keywords or how does it impact discoverability in the store in an accurate way. And it would make sense that only some users have social circles on Google Plus, and for those people, we should try to present that in a better way. But for others, just a waste of time. And how does it impact different metrics on the store? Because organic is really the important thing. And organic, I think, should be a common metric between apps and the store. Because if there is organic downloads, then it means that the user is happy and the app is happy. And I think there is nowhere close the ability to really look into that and understand how it impacts and how to optimize for that in a meaningful way. And that is, I would say, in the area of the +1, first and foremost, but also in the Play Store listing, having the ability to test different versions and look at different combinations for maybe different kinds of users. I mean, there are many different intents to download an app, and we should be able to test different variances of that. And I would say these are the two most important ones.
And how much A/B testing do you guys do across the different versions at the same time?
So we do that actually quite a lot. We use straight rollout as well, which is good for some level of that. But for the Play Store, we try to do it. We even use some external service that is kind of doing a proxy for this testing because it's difficult to do on the store. But we'd like to do much more, and it's just that the tooling is just very limited to do so.
That actually, and I will absolutely get to that, but I want to touch on the A/B testing. How many people are using our A/B testing in the developer console? Very few. How many people are interested in doing beta testing? Okay. Okay. All right. You had something you want to say?
I'm Etienne Jambou from Magma Mobile, a game developer. We've had 300 million downloads of our games on Android, and the biggest challenge to us is retention. And the metric that we're using is DAU over MAUs to really track that retention. So I guess my challenge to you guys is what can you guys do to really help us out with retention? So in terms of suggestions and things like that, there's a few ideas, like for example, the Google Play game app is too static these days, and I think it should surface more data. I mean, really quickly you could pick up that a game is 50% off and there's an opportunity, or that some quests or leaderboards or quests are about to expire and you want to send them back to the game. So that's one of my suggestions. And also to what extent you guys can work with the Google Now team to surface some game data on Google Now, because these days people are using Google Now a lot because it's updated data, it's tailored data, and to what extent it can also apply to all their app activity on a daily basis.
Yeah,
Great, thank you.
This is music to my ears, because one of the reasons why a lot of our game services exist is to solve many of the problems that you're just describing. I'll reiterate some of the things we announced yesterday, because I think that they match what some of the recommendations you have. So we launched a couple new game services. One's called Saved Games. This is not just blob storage, but what we do is that we ask developers to send us a screenshot and other metadata that we surface inside of the Play Games app and inside of other experiences. And the way that we think about it is you know, we run into this in mobile. Everybody has constant partial attention. So they go on vacation, they forget about the game that they were playing, and there's nothing there to remind them coming back. And there's a sea of icons there. What's nice about Saved Games is if you show a very vivid image of the last time that they played the game, or maybe the character that they're working on inside of the game, it acts as a digital bookmark to remind them, saying, hey, I was playing your game. Yeah, I walked away from it for a week, but I remember that I left off at level 5. The description of the Saved Game tells me that. So we're starting to add aspects of game services that build that relationship with your users. The other one that you may or may not be aware of is we launched another service that we call Quests. And Quests literally is a service that drives time-based challenges in the vein of what you just described. It's all game activity-based. So by sending telemetry into this Quest service, you're able to configure time-based challenges like a weekend, I don't know, zombie killing fest or whatever your game is into, and you're able to constantly re-engage users, and we'll automatically send notifications to those users as the quests expire. So I would encourage all developers who are interested in just boosting retention, these services, including multiplayer achievements and leaderboards, we're seeing developers show us 20, 30, 40% bumps in day 2 retention and number of sessions played per day, just by virtue of integrating and doing a very good design around them. Sorry, Google Now.
Yeah.
I think as we get more signals, and you know, we like to take advantage of the data that we have at Google to build better user experiences. That's a really fascinating idea. I think that we'll take it to heart, and we'll talk with the Google Now team.
Great. I think we got another product request coming over here.
It's not really a product request, but I'm Josh with OpenTable. One of the biggest challenges. Thanks. One of the greatest challenges we've had with our latest update is the new permissions. So every time somebody updates the app, they get bombarded with all the things that we do. And you know, there was an attempt recently to recategorize those permissions in such a way that make them seem less arcane, but unfortunately they've had other side effects. So for example, for us, we have a permission that we have to ask for to use Google Maps in our app. It's called read, write, external storage, or write external storage. And that's for caching of the map tiles. And unfortunately, it's rolled up under read video files and music or whatever it is. And so all of our users are rating our app very negatively because they think that we're stealing their files, reading their files, doing all these sorts of things. And it's something that's really avoidable if we're either able to explain in line with the permission, saying, why do we use this permission? Or some other way that they're not just rolled up to seem more intrusive than they actually are. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for the feedback. Yeah, I guess just to give a little bit of background on the change, you know, one of the things we had noticed with a lot of users was that users, in the majority, were simply not reading permissions at all because it was just sort of this long list of very obscure technical words. And so a lot of people had no idea what they were actually granting access to when they installed applications. So by giving little icons and sort of grouping together the different types of permissions, we wanted to make people more aware of the capabilities that we were granting. And, you know, I guess definitely what you're running into is the, how do I put this? I guess when you get that read-write external storage permission, you actually did have the ability to do exactly what it now describes, but your app is obviously not doing that, right? Not reading the user's photos and things like that. So I think the changes that we made are something that we hope are going to get more people interested in permissions and making them more aware of what's possible. But we're definitely thinking a lot more kind of long-term about what would a better, more comprehensive change look like. So, I think the idea of explaining, allowing a developer to explain why the permissions are being requested is a really interesting one. It's certainly something we've thought about on the team. So I guess what I would say is just that we are planning to make more additional changes, and we hope that by getting more users aware of what's happening, they will pay more attention to what capabilities they are granting. But I totally get that this can be really painful if the actual access that the user is granting is actually greater access than what maybe your app is actually doing. Your app may have the ability to read the user's photos, but you may not actually be doing that. But it can be tricky because, if you say a phrase like read write external storage to my mom or something like that, she's going to have no idea what that means. But actually, if she does grant that permission to an application, it could actually read her photos and edit them. So even though OpenTable obviously wouldn't do that, I'm a huge customer and a huge fan. I've made many restaurant reservations through it. I think just definitely know that this is an area that we're thinking about, on a weekly basis within the team, and we're trying to figure out, more ways to balance making users aware of the capabilities an application has access to, and also, to make sure that developers have a good experience as well. So thanks for the feedback.
Great. Other product requests, maybe something from Developer Console or Search or Store?
It's Store, I suppose. It's fairly simple. I'm wondering if there's going to be any sort of a supported API for the data. And the use case I'm thinking about is now that native ads are...
Could you repeat that a little louder? A request for what API?
An API for store listing data. And in particular, I'll give you a use case. So as native ads get more and more popular, it'd be nice to do something like show the star rating, next to the ad in the stream.
Okay, so just so I understand, the API you're talking about would be something for making ads? I didn't quite understand that.
Yeah, just attributes on the apps that are listed in Google Play. So for instance, OpenTable, star rating 4.5 or whatever it is, if I see through a native ad listing, I have an ad here to show in my stream for OpenTable, it'd be nice to show, 4.5 stars and know that it's right.
I think I know what the request is. The request is probably for our ads team specifically because you're talking about yeah, but you want to be able to retrieve information about ads though, right?
Information about apps that are retrieve information about apps that are in Google Play.
Yeah, totally get that. I'm just trying to understand what you'd be doing with it. Because actually, when you mentioned
what's the
ads,
use case? How do you use it?
When you mentioned ads, we actually have the most standard format on AdMob is like name of app, number of star rating, that sort of thing. So I'm trying to understand what you'd want to do with it.
I get you. I'm thinking in the context of native mobile ads. So for instance, if I get a native ad through InMobi as an example, so I've got a package name, it'd be nice to get the star rating and know that it's right, as opposed to whatever maybe the advertiser put in.
Wow, that's an interesting suggestion. I hadn't heard about exactly exposing that API. Cool, yeah. Thanks for the suggestion.
All right, panelists, what else do you want to know? Is there anything specific you guys are thinking about that you want feedback on?
Sure. So has anyone in the audience contacted support before? Issues using the console or, yeah? So what we want to know primarily is, what's effective for you in terms of contacting us, be it the channels you can contact us through or the content that we host, and what are your experiences? What suggestions do you have so that we can better enable you as you're either triaging an issue or you're trying to deploy your app? How can we help there?
First of all, show of hands, how many people are developers that would be looking for technical help? Okay, and how many folks that are more on the business side, maybe looking for some marketing assistance? Okay, I want to know what everybody else does here. I want your job. Okay, anybody want to comment on the support channels or how we can help you? I think really for us, we want to understand what is the best way to get you information, because I'd be willing to bet from those developers, how many people are using Stack Overflow to get their questions answered? Yeah, that's what I thought. That's what I thought. What I'm very curious about is we do have a variety of different features for you. Is there something we can do to help answer those questions for you, whether they be technical or business?
Well, this is completely selfish, but I'll be completely selfish. I've been trying to put up a Django app on App Engine, and of course it appears now that it's changed. And there's great instruction for writing it from scratch, but I want to take something that's more thoroughly developed, like Mezzanine, which is built on top of Django. Can't find any place to get started with that. And so all of the mappings are kind of screwy. And it should be a fairly straightforward thing to do, but it's not. And also, between the change to compute engine and some of this containerization, I'm completely lost where to get started.
Where would you like to go to get that information?
Any old website. I mean.
Okay. Okay, so there's some standard documentation. Anybody else? Anybody else want to know where they would get technical support? Or maybe some business. Okay. Yep. Totally understand. Absolutely. Yes.
So I'd like to add something that is not about support with Google, but support with our users. So it's excellent that you can reply in the reviews. That's really good. And what about making the threaded replies? We see that users, when they have to give out some permission, really like to look into those replies and reviews. And most times when you're actually reactive with comments, you reply to review, and then the person who wrote the review in the first place changes it as a mean for an answer, so it doesn't make sense. So every time there is a reply that is quick enough for the first user to actually reply to the reply, you have comments that just really don't make sense.
Yeah, thanks for the feedback. It was definitely something we had thought about, which was kind of how far into a forum do we want our reviews to go? We decided we did want to have a reply as, a unique way to allow that direct interaction between developers and users. We're definitely aware that it has some limitations. On the other hand, we aren't sure that we really want to create like a discussion forum. So I think we're kind of in this intermediate position right now where we're aware that it's not perfect as it is, but we're not sure we really want to go into a full-on multi-threaded forum. It says, sorry, can you repeat that?
Maybe just add a tag that says answered or reviewed, just to know that it's to read it differently.
Mm. Okay, yeah, I think that's actually could be a good suggestion. Yeah, thanks for that.
Great. Had some more feedback here.
Hi guys, I'm Luke Smorgan. I'm one of the owners of an app developer from Australia called B2 Cloud. We're actually a service provider, so we build applications for many other businesses. So we ourselves don't have a huge presence on the Play Store, but rather always encourage our customers to be creating their own Play Store accounts to be releasing their apps on. So we don't have really strong relationships with Google, although we'd really like to have stronger relationships. We've got some contacts there, but it seems like we can't get as much traction as perhaps larger developers who have got their own Play Store accounts with a significant number of users who would typically attract a little more attention from you guys. How are we able to sort of better connect, stay ahead, be able to get what's coming up, what are the sort of things that you want to be able to see in your apps that we can be encouraging our customers and that we can be suggesting the sort of features to be including in our applications for our customers?
Yeah, so we work with, and I think it's been primarily in the US, but we want to expand it to Australia and other regions with development firms who are building for their clients. We provide them materials and we show them what our best practices are so that they can become a channel for us, so that you can distribute these best practices. So,
but I hear you. I think it's a good point. Thank you for the feedback. Maybe there's something we could do from a program perspective and give you visibility amongst other developers, or figure out exactly where brands go to get their development firm support. So thank you very much for that. We have exactly 1 minute left, so I am going to turn it over to you guys. If you have anything else that's burning on your mind, is there something you guys are thinking about doing and want some quick feedback yet?
So I guess I would ask all of you, how do you currently gain distribution for your apps? What's working the best, and what could we do to help enhance it?
Super short.
My favorite topic. So thanks for your presentation yesterday. When you mentioned matchmaking, that made me think about that. Another presentation I went to yesterday talked about all kinds of different contextual signals that people are going to be using for Google Now in these kinds of devices. And I was thinking, well, why is the Play Store so limited in the signals that it's taking in from its users, right? You've got a search term, but that's it, right? That might work great for games or other kind of blockbuster, maybe short-term engagement apps, but for something more niche, long-term, like an Open Table or the company I work with, Get Your Guide, which is a travel app, find things to do when you travel. We really want the clue of somebody when they're in a city that's not their home, or these other, when they've got an appointment, all these other contextual things that are being considered for now. Are they on the roadmap for Google Play?
I guess we'll say that we're thinking about a lot of the same questions, and I'd love to hear from another developer. So thanks for the feedback.
So here's what we're going to do. We have to wrap up just because we have another panel coming on here. Thank you guys so much for your time. We were going to be around here out of the way of the next session coming through, but thank you so much. Really appreciate your help and your feedback, and please keep it coming. Thank you.